ate noodles with no packet.
A prolific monster. He might genuinely be the hardest working musician that ever lived. When it came to pure execution, he was in a league of his own.
When you're talented like Prince, but then you also outwork everybody, you're just at that elite level that nobody's at.
We're talking about a man who outworked the entire industry without breaking a sweat. And look, even if you never reach a fraction of what he built in your lifetime, these 6 lessons you can extract from his grind will give you an unfair
Hesitation kills energy. Speed compound.
edge over everyone else. To put this in perspective, Prince created at such a psychotic level that if you sat down right now to listen to just his unreleased music, you'd be sitting there for 10 years straight. That's not a myth, that's reality. But you don't build a 10-year backlog by moving at a normal pace. You build it by declaring war on anything that slows you down. And that war starts with the first law. Law 1, speed is power. Back then, there were no laptops to record music on. If you wanted to lay down a track, you had to book a physical studio for hundreds of dollars a day. And that booking came with a sound engineer. But if you were the one assigned to Prince, you better pray you could keep up. In the words of his engineer, Susan Rogers,
if you did anything that slowed Prince down, you were out of there.
he preferred working with women in the studio. Why? Zero friction. And zero friction equals speed. Susan recalled how he'd come in. She'd handle the bass. He'd play it, put it down, jump on the keys, then grab the guitar. He'd play all the parts, sing the lead, sing the backing vocals while she mixed it live. Alan Leeds, the man who ran Prince's Paisley Park record label, described it perfectly. It was like a funnel, as if someone was pouring songs into him. They just kept coming out the other end. In the time it takes most people to set up a microphone, Prince had a fully arranged track. Friction leads to delay, and delay leads to lost momentum.
Yes, this is true. Friction leads to delay, and then delay leads to lost momentum. Like the snowball effect, snowball theory. Which is why they talk about consistency. They talk about consistency not because it's important. It is important to show up every single day, but like a snowball effect, once you get the ball rolling and the ball keeps on rolling, the last thing you want the ball to do is just stop. You ever seen a snowball just stop in the middle of the fucking hill as it's rolling down? No, you don't. Because once it gets going, off to the races. That's it. You ain't stopping that. Excuse me. Trying to kill me.
Every second of friction steals heat from the idea. No friction leads to speed, which leads to results. Speed compounds. Hesitation kills energy. Prince protected momentum like it was oxygen. He'd walk in with lyrics scribbled on hotel stationery from the park, walk out with a fully written, fully recorded, fully mixed record in one day. On the Go with Elmo Labano podcast, producer and musician Jimmy Jam remembered what that pace actually looked like.
Prince would come rehearse our band for 6 hours, and then he'd go to the studio all night, work on a song. And then he'd walk into our rehearsal the next day with a cassette, and he'd pop the cassette in and he'd say, I did this last night. Press play and it would be a masterpiece of a song, right?
Yeah. Prince wasn't working hard, he was working fast. Most artists wait for inspiration, but Prince treated inspiration like a deadline. He didn't sit with ideas. He executed them before doubt could find them. That's the difference. Speed doesn't just create more work, it protects confidence. And that changed the game. But here's the trap. You can move incredibly fast and still end up with a hard drive full of half-finished projects. Moving fast means nothing if you don't know how to close. Which brings us to Law 2. Finish while it's hot.
Finish while it's hot. This is true. This is the problem with a lot of artists, is that they will work on something every single day. They'll make something, and they will be working towards, always, because my whole theory was always something new stuff, new shit. That's fine, but you also have to be able to go back and close the circle on everything. If you have all these half unfinished works, that's not necessarily good, because you have all these unfinished ideas in your head. What you want to be able to do is the same Prince process, bro. Go in, make it, finish it, drop it. That's always been my theory when it comes to making any sort of art, bro, is getting it started and then done in the same span of time.
Sound engineer Peggy McCreary was in the room when Prince recorded the biggest song of his career in 2 days, When Doves Cry. Peggy recalled how he started building.
Mainly because my thought process is this, bro. You have to retard max sometimes. I think the idea of sitting down and thinking about things too much, it's too analytical. I think true inspiration comes from whatever stupid thing you wanted to do or say or action you implemented in that moment. That was what needed to be done. Because too many times I've sat down and done something, and then 3 days later, I'm sure you guys can relate to this, is you sit down and then you're just kind of like, was that really, should I have done that? Should I have moved like this? Should I have said this? And then you get into this weird, crazy loop, and you fall into this abyss of just like overthinking a past previous action or overthinking your next actual action. So this plays a good part by being able to just focus on doing things quickly. You tap into this sort of flow state of confidence, because you know that what I did that in that moment, what I said in that moment, what I laid down in that moment, that was exactly what needed to happen. And then you don't think twice about it. Because that sort of energy, it translates over, bro, when you're not second guessing yourself.
In the track, then he unproduced it right in front of her. She said he punched the bass out, smiled, and said, ain't nobody gonna believe I do this. And he did. He didn't start ideas and revisit them later. He attacked them while the fire was burning. Think about the psychology of that. When Doves Cry was the biggest song of 1984, he built it up with raging guitars and synths, realized it was overproduced, and instead of sleeping on it, he stripped it naked right then and there. He stayed in the fire. Ideas have temperature, and temperature drops fast. Most people wait. Prince moved. Have you ever noticed how ideas feel electric in the beginning, and 2 days later, they feel average? The idea didn't change. The emotion cooled. Prince understood something most creators ignore. Momentum has a lifespan. Finish inside the window or lose the magic. So why don't most people finish? Because we start overthinking.
Overthinking. This is exactly what I just fucking said, bro. Have you ever just made something in that moment? You're like, yo, this is fire. And then 2 days later, you come back and it's like, this doesn't have the same, because you're in a different headspace. You're in a different energy now. Everything has energy. This room. Whenever I like to make music, I like to make music to the tempo of the room. What's the tempo and energy of the space that I'm in? And the tempo and energy changes depending on who enters into the space. And then now you're creating something from that specific tangible moment. If I'm in a studio or I'm in a room with 4 or 5 different people, bitches, shit is flowing. And then you take it to the next studio and you're like, oh, now I got to finish this track I made a couple weeks ago. And you play it. You're like, well, what the fuck is this? This isn't, because the energy resonance is different, fam.
Keep the details. If you want to finish fast, you have to kill the enemy of speed, which brings us to law 3. Perfectionism is a trap. While other artists spent a week on a snare sound, Prince gave it 5 minutes. If it felt right, it was right. First take. Keep the mistakes. Keep the emotion. As musician Novi Novak said, he didn't want perfect. He wanted feeling. Perfection slows momentum. Emotion creates impact. In the 1980s, the industry was obsessed with stereo music. 20 takes for one detail, a week for one drum sound. Prince dismissed it. If the song was good, get it down. Susan Rogers said, his music came out like a sneeze. Bam, 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 bam. He kept the first take, because the first take has the rawest emotion. Perfectionism is fear disguised as standards.
See, that's why I always, even when recording vocals, I do not like to do a vocal more than 3 times. Or what I'll do is I'll just record the first take of that vocal. Even if I'm saying gibberish and not all the words are there, I'll just leave it like that. Because the feeling is more important than what is actually being said.
Perfection feels responsible. It feels disciplined. But sometimes it's just fear of being seen. Prince wasn't polishing for approval. He was catching lightning before it disappeared. And that's a different mindset. Momentum isn't a switch you turn on and off. To keep lightning striking, it can't be a hobby. It has to become your lifestyle. Which brings us to Law 4. Create every day. If he wasn't on stage, he was in rehearsal. If he wasn't rehearsing, he was recording. 4-hour sound checks, 2-hour shows, all-night studio sessions. Sleep on the plane, wake up, do it again. As Susan Rogers put it, if he was awake, Prince was recording. That wasn't obsession, it was identity. On tour, most rock stars do a 15-minute sound check. But Prince, 4 hours. Then a 2.5-hour show for 14,000 people. Midnight hits. He leaves the stage, goes straight to a studio, records all night, catches a flight at dawn. R&B singer Bilal, analyzing Prince's insane work rate, summed it up perfectly. I don't think there's anyone as prolific as Prince in terms of just music creation. He had an output like some Mozart type shit. You know, that's when you're possessed with a mission from the universe. What you do daily becomes who you are. You don't rise to motivation. You default to routine. Inspiration is unstable. Identity isn't. Repetition builds identity. Identity builds work. Work builds legacy. Now let's be real. That pace sounds like a one-way ticket to burnout. So how do you sustain it? You master the next law. Law number 5. Sleep. Yes, sleep. He had a bed installed in the studio. Purple sheets. New one.
Dude, that's crazy, dude. Sleep. Sleep is actually super important, bro, because I find that because what I like to do is wake up. I like to get a little bit of workout in, and then I'll just jump right into either making content or editing something or looking for like a client. And it's just this revolving door. I don't really get much sleep, but what I find is when I don't get much sleep, that's when my brain starts to slow down a little bit. It starts to short circuit. I get disoriented by things that I'm doing, by being on a screen too long, and then start to get headaches. And it's like, sleep is super important. That's why even I like to take midday naps. Sleep is super vital. Sleeping 9 to 12 hours sometimes I do that. Or I'll just take a whole day where I'm doing nothing but sleeping, bro. Just decompressing the mind.
Every week. This wasn't indulgence, it was strategy. He didn't glorify burning out. He built recovery into the system. To maintain God-tier output, you don't run on fumes. You reload. Recovery isn't weakness, it's maintenance. Burnout kills momentum. Prince optimized stamina. He wasn't trying to win the week. He was building a lifetime. That requires discipline. But what was it all for? Speed, momentum, decades of stamina. He wasn't chasing a summer hit. He was playing a different game, which brings us to the final lesson. Law 6. Build your vault. Prince didn't look at it like he was recording a song. He looked at it like he was crafting his legacy. That's why as soon as he built his recording studio, he also built the vault. Susan Rogers, who actually started it, realized something crucial. My goal was, I want us to have everything he's ever recorded right here. If we get a tornado, if we get a flood, this is his legacy. We need to protect these things. So what did this vault actually look like? According to his drummer, Michael Bland, it's in this room in the building that has veils. And then there's the door with the combination lock. Not a closet, not a storage box, a sealed chamber. Inside that room, A literal treasure chest. And we're not talking about demos, not scraps, not half-finished loops. We're talking about fully mixed records, full albums no one had ever heard. Vocalist Cat Glover described it best. It's really a vault of treasure. I mean, this stuff is incredible on every level. Think about that. Thousands of songs. Only 5 to 10% of what he recorded was ever released. Engineer Hans Martin Buff said the sheer volume inside that room didn't make sense. You would think someone lived like 300 years and was recording 5 songs a day. Let that land. 300 years. But here's the deeper question. Why hide it? Why record masterpieces just to lock them away? Alan Lees explains that if a brilliant song didn't fit the specific concept of an album, it didn't get forced. It didn't get compromised. It went into the vault. What if the work matters more than the applause? He wasn't creating for validation. He was creating for history. Kat estimated there were around 2,000 songs when she was there. Probably more. Maybe way more. And when we...
So the act of just creating because it is what you were put on this world to do, as opposed to people that create because they want it to be perfect. They want it to look, have that certain sheen to it. They wanted to present it to get the applause and the accolades. Man's just made art because that's what he was born to do, to just make art. Now, my question is, who's going to release this, bro? Does anyone have the right? I know he left the labels to not, you know what I mean? Because he was in that battle with Warner, right? So now it's like, what's this man's doing? Is he going to release this shit? Is his estate going to release this? This millions of dollars is there guys is sitting on it over there, yeah?
You ever hear them all? His bassist, Sonny Thompson, laughs when asked that. No, because if you could, you'd probably be sitting there for 10 years. 10 years. You don't build that kind of leverage chasing lights. You build it second work no one sees. Quietly, relentlessly. That's vault mentality. And vault mentality changes how you see time. You stop thinking in posts. You start thinking in decades. Even if you never match Prince's numbers. Move fast. Finish hot. Protect momentum. Show up daily. Recover. Build your vault. Do that, and you won't just be productive. You'll be dangerous with time.
So why Prince's work ethic was terrifying, and then the thumbnail is women equals speed. Ah, I see what you're saying. Less friction, because you don't have to have the egos of male egos being like, oh, let's do this. It's like, no. It's like, no, bitch! Lay down that fucking bass line again. Sorry. That's great.